to my YouTube channel. This is Amber Nestor, and we are going to take a deep dive and talk about today. It's about 11:49 a.m. Eastern. It is July 21st, 2026. We're going to talk about a specific property, but we're also going to talk about just some general educational information about different ways you can think about what a property is as far as its market value, or what some people might say what it's worth. But in real estate, agents and brokers are supposed to discuss market value. And what a property is worth to a buyer is going to be dependent upon many factors, including what that buyer's goals are. Is the buyer looking to have a place to move into quickly with their family? Is a buyer looking to renovate and expand? Is a buyer looking to develop and invest? Is a buyer looking to flip quickly? So there's a limitless number of possibilities in regards to what that buyer's goals might be, and those goals are going to impact what's it worth to them. What kind of deal is going to be worth it to them to do that kind of a deal, right? That's a huge range. Another thing that can impact the amount of money a seller can expect to fetch for a property is how quickly do they want or need to sell, and other factors that impact that whole scenario there. Another thing that impacts what a property's perceived market value could be, or the range of that value could be, is what are the highest and best uses of that property? What are the most valuable and profit-inducing potential uses of that property? Does it have development potential? Can it have multiple home sites? How does the topography lay? Does the land have good drainage? And on and on and on and on. Okay. Also, the surroundings of the property. What are the parcels that wrap around the property like? What's the location of the property in relation to the road, the neighborhood, the town, the county, and the state? And things that are attractions, conveniences, or valuable amenities in that region. So many, many things, and much more than what I've listed here today, impacts the perceived market value or the perceived worth it deal to the buyer or seller that's taking on the perspective of any property at any point in time. So some things I'm going to talk about today are this property, when it first hit the market a couple of weeks ago, was at $400,000, and we have got it down to $299,000. So this is estimated according to Zillow, which I don't like to use Zillow for any type of calculation, but if it's saying something that I like, then I might be a little bit persuaded to look at that. So we're going to look at what Zillow is saying about how quickly it's expected that this property sells. So at this point in time, 11:52 a.m. Eastern, July 21st, 2026, it's a Tuesday. This is indicating there's 60 images in total right now for you to browse through. There's also a bunch of supplemental documents, which the public can't access through this website, but by reaching out to me directly, I could get you those documents, or if you're under contract with an agent, it's their duty to log into the MLS and pull those supplemental documents for you. But we're going to scroll down here and look at some data that Zillow is claiming about this property. So it says that this property is likely faster to sell than 91% of nearby properties. Okay. So when you click on that 91% nearby, this is what Zillow is alleging. It says, our algorithm analyzes data, including nearby home sites, property details, and engagement, to estimate how fast a home will sell. That's a lot of different stuff. Okay, then it says, this is based on home information from East Tennessee Realtors over the past 3 months. Okay, so there's a lot of vagueness there. There's a lot of mystery there. But in general, it's looking at how people are interacting with other nearby properties in the past 3 months. Okay, so is this a good indicator? Is this a good metric? Maybe. I don't know. I like what it says. I like what it has to say on this particular property. Without knowing the full details about exactly how they're gathering and analyzing that data, I have no way to know if that's a good metric. But I like what it's saying. So far, it says on Zillow alone, 74 people who have visited this property's listing on Zillow. That's just Zillow specific, okay? There's thousands of real estate websites out there that people use to browse, like, and save listings. But on this one alone, in 12 days, at least 74 unique individuals have saved this property. At least almost 1,500 unique individuals have clicked into the deeper level of viewing this property's listing details. Okay. If you're curious about how different that rate and that pattern is to other properties in the Harriman or Roane County or Kingston or Rockwood area, do a Zillow search, type in Roane County, Tennessee, hit search, then start clicking on some of those houses. Look at how many days they've been on the market. Look at how many saves they've got on the Zillow platform. And then you can kind of compare at how this one is performing to some of the others. So the next thing that I want to talk about is what a great deal this really is. And in order to help you understand what a great deal this really is, I'm going to start breaking down several things. I'm going to look at things like, what would it cost to just buy a similar piece of land by itself? No improvements, just forested land of roughly around 7.75 acres. On the open market right now, if you were going to try to buy that much land around that region, what would you be spending just for the land purchase alone? Then we might build up and look at some other factors like, what would it cost for the tree clearing and removal? What would it cost for the excavation? What would it cost for the gravel driveway that's hundreds of feet long? What would it cost to have the utilities buried and carried up to the home site? What would it cost to site prep for the home site? What would it cost to get the septic permit and the septic tank and the field line installed and operational? What would it cost to connect utilities? What would it cost to run internet to the property? What would it cost to let's see, what would be our next step here? To put in the foundation, to build the basement, to build the main level, to run all the plumbing throughout the framework, to run all the electrical throughout the framework, to do the insulation, the sheetrock, the new lighting, the new HVAC, the second HVAC, to build the 3-bay and 4th animal enclosure carport structure, to flatten that space out with an excavator. Let's see what else. To open up the massive backyard, to clear that backyard. I'm trying to think if there's any other steps or stages in the construction that we might explore, but replicating what is there now, if you did it piece by piece, not only would you have all of those expenses, right, but you would also have the time it takes to do all of those things. You would have the materials and you would have the labor. Okay, you're looking at a project that would take at least a year in most cases, sometimes 2 years. Do you really have the time and money to handle and juggle all of that? Additionally, this property has zoning and capabilities that most property on the open market just doesn't have right now. It's very close to get to the lake. It's a really convenient location to lots of different things. The topography that it has is unique. The privacy that it has is very unique. So how many properties can you really find in that region that can compete with all those characteristics and this price tag? I challenge you, the buying public, to find me a better deal that can beat this property on its characteristics and qualities and price. I don't think you can do it. If you find one, text it to me at 865-617-4783. Again, that's 865-617-4783. You can send me that text and you can say, I think I've got you beat. at 425 Ashe Cabin Hollow Road in Harriman, and here's the address to the property that I think has you beat. And then ask me, how can you beat this property? Okay? And I'll look at it, I'll research it, and I'll try to figure out if there's an argument I can come up with to prove to you that my property here at 425 Ashe can beat the property that you have tried to compare it to. That would be a really fun challenge. I seriously encourage you to do that. I'm not joking. I'm being 100% serious here. If you send a text, know that it might take me a few hours to a day or two before I reply. If I don't respond within 2 business days to a text of that nature, text it to me again, or give me a call, leave me a voicemail, and say, hey, I sent you this text. This is what it said. Did it come through? So anyway, that'll be a fun little game there that we can play. But let's start looking first at what the cost might be to just acquire a raw piece of similar land by itself. So we're looking for around 7.75 acres or something similar, and we want it to have similar beneficial characteristics and location. Let's see if I can find anything. So for this step, I'm switching over to Realtor.com. I'm leaving Zillow, and the reason that I'm doing that is because Realtor.com reportedly is held to a higher legal standard of accuracy, and it's updated a little bit more quickly than any other real estate website out there. Most of the MLSs that exist in the country feed into Realtor.com, so the data is just a little better, or it is supposed to be. So we're going to search Roane County, Tennessee. So I've found a great example as a starting place. There's actually a piece of land that's listed for sale by a great friend of mine, Levi Giltnane. Levi has been slanging real estate for many decades. He is a phenomenal real estate agent and an old dear friend of mine. He works with Sail Away Homes and Land, a wonderful real estate firm that is family owned by his family. And he's got a super cool piece of land for sale right now on the exact same road, Ashe Cabin Hollow Road. This is a 6.98 acre parcel. It's currently listed at $99,900. So this is a great example to look at. Well, the parcel that we have is 7.75 acres, okay? But it has improvements in the home, of course. But this is $99,900, so almost $100,000 just for the land, and this is a parcel a bit smaller than what we have. Let's click through the photo gallery here, and who knows, maybe if you're looking at buying my client's property, you might also want to buy Mr. Giltnane's property as well. If you'd like me to write up an offer for you on this acreage, I would absolutely love to do that. Let's look at this photo gallery. We can even structure deals such that maybe you only want to buy the house and the land that I have for sale if you can also guarantee that you're able to buy this other parcel that's for sale as well. So that could be something that we explore, and we can customize a purchase and sales agreement that connects those two deals together and make sure they both succeed. So you can see there's a section of land here that has been cleared. You can see there's a section of land here that is grassy, and here as well. You can see there's another section of land depicted here that has been cleared and opened up. It looks like there is a gravel drive input on the section of the land. Here is a diagram of that tract. This appears to indicate the Ashe Cabin Hollow Road, and in a second we'll actually pull up the parcel diagram and take a look at where it's at in relation to my client's property that's for sale. So let's go ahead and pull up that diagram. So right out of the gate, if you were going to try to replicate what we've got going on over here, just right down the road, a third of the cost is just the land itself. This is the contact information for Mr. Levi Giltnane of Sail Away Homes and Land. I am required to provide this to you if I talk about one of his listings. You have the legal right to speak directly to him about his listing. You are not forced to go through a buyer's agent or to go through me, although I would love to write your offer and do your negotiations for you. But I am required to provide you this information. So this is how you can contact him if you are interested in purchasing that piece of land. So I also discovered in looking at the details for Mr. Giltnane's listing that it mentioned there's another parcel he also has for sale, also on Ashe Cabin Hollow. Just buy it all up, guys. Contact me. I'll write up your offers. You can buy the house and the land that I have at 425. You could buy all of the land, all the parcels that Mr. Giltnane also has listed. This particular parcel is 14 acres. It's listed for $159,900. So we have one parcel that's just shy of 7. That is $99,900, and we have this parcel that's 14 for $159,900. Factors that could be impacting the varying prices on these would be topography and improvements, of course. There are sections where there is maybe like a opened area or a path or a cleared space. We need to look at those survey diagrams, and I think that there is one available, so we might find that here in just a moment. So here is that parcel that's 6.98, again listed by Mr. Levi Giltnane, and it's listed at $99,900. Let's see if we can find a survey or a diagram for that parcel. So this is that survey, a very beautiful survey, I might add. Very beautiful, intricate, and detailed. And we are going to zoom in here so we can try and take a closer look at each parcel that he has for sale. Because again, if you're buying the house at 425 and all the land attached to it, the 7.75 acres, you might also be interested in this 6.98 acres here. You can see the shape of this parcel here. Then over here is a 14-acre tract here. And this is indicating some previous lines that have been drawn in the past, that the goal is to abandon those. And this is a tract here, looks like it's indicating some type of a driveway or a crossover easement maybe. And this is a 16.05 acre tract. I'm not sure if this one is for sale. I'm certain that tract 3 and tract 1 are listed for sale. I have found those in the MLS. I think this core one is maybe not for sale, but I could check and see. And there might also be additional acreage that he has for sale off market or pocket listing, and I could help find that out if you would like me to work for you in that capacity. But again, just to emphasize, back up through the video, you can see Mr. Giltnane's contact information. You have the legal right to deal with him directly, and you do not have to include me. But the purpose of this video is to study what would it take to replicate what we currently have at the property over on 425 Ashe Cabin Hollow Road. Now, without getting the GPS coordinates and driving the frontage of these lots, locating them, and looking at how the land lays, I can't speak a whole lot to their topography. So here is what I can show you. So when you look at this diagram here, you see this pointing tip. So when we compare that to the survey, you see this pointing shape here. So it looks like this whole big parcel might all potentially be for sale, but that they have a goal of maybe selling it off in pieces, but they might also be considering selling it off as a whole. Again, I'm not quite sure what's happening to this middle piece, but I know that this piece on the right and this piece for the left are both actively listed in the MLS. At least I was able to find those. If this one's in the MLS as well, I just haven't found it yet, and I just don't have time to go digging. But again, that's something that we can find out if it's something you might be interested in. Now we're going to take a look at where these parcels are at in proximity to my client's home and land that's for sale. Okay, so you can see here, and hopefully the mouse is something that the screen capture is picking up. You can see the shape of my client's parcel here. So to find that land that's for sale, you would pass my client's driveway, you would continue heading southwestwardly on Ashe Cabin Hollow Road, and then on the right would be these parcels here. And this is the outer border of these parcels, and then those surveyed lines are carved out on that other survey screen that we looked at just a moment ago. Here is that pointed tip shape, which is a great point of reference, and then it looks like the road dead ends right around here, and then there's probably some private drives that connect some of this bigger acreage towards the back of this topography here. So this would be potentially pretty cool if you were looking to maybe, I don't know, build some more homes down the road for family, loved ones, friends, or maybe if you did decide to do multiple home sites here at my client's property and do multiple home sites right down the road, then you have multiple properties that you're doing short-term or long-term rentals with all on the same road, which just makes property management and maintenance tasks a lot easier when they're clustered together like that. So we've kind of gone off on a tangent on this research adventure here. Let's redirect back to the subject at hand, and that's in evaluating what a great deal this really is at 425 Ashe Cabin Hollow Road. In trying to recreate what is already here, what would the cost be? So we found the similar lot of similar acreage down the road for roughly $100,000. And so we're going to say, okay, we're listed at $299, so let's subtract the 99, and now we're at $200,000. Do you think you could replicate the buried utilities, the gravel driveway, the land clearing, the excavation, the fencing, the carport, the septic permitting and system, the two-level home, the two HVAC systems, the lighting upgrades, the metal on top of shingle roof, all of the electrical work, all of the plumbing work, everything that goes into the structure and the yard for $200,000 or less, then stack on top, because I don't think you can. Because I don't think you can. Then stack on top of that, and here, let me sidetrack. If you find a builder that will give you a quote like that, you send me their contact information immediately. My cell phone number is 865-617-4783. Again, that's 865-617-4783. Consider this is materials, this is labor, this is time, this is equipment, this is a crew, architecture, engineering, etc., etc. For $200,000 or less, I don't think you can. Not in this day and age. So then stack on top of that what zoning has said is possible to explore as far as building additional structures on the property. Okay, and then stack on top of that your proximity to these waterways and these important key places: Farragut, Lenoir City, Kingston, Harriman, Rockwood, Spring City, 10 Mile, Midway. Up here is Oak Ridge. Here's Ozone, big famous waterfall in Ozone. Everybody should check it out at least once in their life. In fact, Mr. Levi Giltnane was the first person who ever took me to see Ozone Falls. I went with his beautiful daughters, and he treated us all to an amazing meal that day. An absolute gentleman, and had a wonderful time there. Somewhere I have pictures at that waterfall with them from a few years ago. But I'm getting sidetracked. Let's refocus here. So, another neat thing to mention is that you're also, if you're somebody who likes to visit Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Townsend, Wares Valley once a year, you can get there in about 35-45 minutes. Well, I would say Townsend and Wares Valley around 45 minutes, and then into Sevierville, Gatlinburg, or Pigeon Forge in like an additional time frame, maybe like 20 minutes or something like that, and depending on which route you take. But that is a doable visit once a year easily. So that's a big plus, because that's, that's like a popular fun place to go now and again. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to get an estimate of this length of the driveway here and the length and width of the footprint of the home. And I'm going to draw up some rough estimates for what it would cost to replicate the improvements that are already here. So we're going to measure that driveway. That's a gravel driveway that is about 375 feet. Actually, probably a little bit longer than that, because if you can see near the top of the screen there, I've not actually placed the pin on the road, its edge. I've kind of skipped quite a bit of, let's just redo it. Let's just be super accurate. There. Now we're actually connecting to the road, and then we're going to the endpoint of the gravel section. So 388 feet of gravel drive, 390 rather. So one possible rough estimate using one particular estimation model is saying that the driveway of 388 feet gravel, based on the dimensions I provided to it and the description that I provided to it based on what I saw there at the property. It says low end 22,000, expectation more like 26,000, high end around 39,000. I would argue it might cost even more than that if it's a heavily wooded piece of land, but we're going to go with the low end just for argument's sake. So we're going to say 22,000, okay? And we're going to keep in mind that we've already put a raw land cost at around 99,000, okay? So that puts us so far at a budget subtotal of replication of around 122,000, okay? Now let's look at utilities. Okay, so this estimation model, if we were going to bring in the public water and bring in the public electric, bury it and bring it alongside that gravel drive, it's saying, and again, these are rough estimates, okay, low end 18,000, high end 30,000 plus. I would think it's probably going to be more, at least around the 24,000. So let's just take that middle number there and we'll say electric and water, 24,000 to bury and carry to the end of gravel drive, okay? And that puts us at 24,000 for that piece. And so our subtotal is now at a replication cost of $146,000 so far. Now, I want to be very, very careful here and really emphasize a disclaimer. These estimation softwares are often way underestimating the cost of things, okay? Way underestimating the cost of things. So do not count on this to be in any way accurate or reliable. If you are looking at estimating the cost of doing absolutely anything, the best way to get that estimate is to call 3 companies that are based nearby where you want the job to be done. Pick a massive company, a medium-sized company, and a smaller company, and get a quote from all 3 of those companies for that contract work. Also, maybe go down and have a chat with the Pro Desk and the staff that works around the Pro Desk at your local Lowe's or Home Depot. And another thing you can do is contact your zoning office and look at what construction companies, excavation companies, and other types of companies have pulled permits for properties that are near the subject property in the past 12 to 24 months. These are people that and businesses that are probably still in business, experienced in the area, experienced with the soil layers and rock types that are typically there, and are experienced with the going rates in that region. Okay, so we've got the gravel drive, we've got the purchase of the land. Let me back up. Let's do it in order. We've got the purchase of the land. Actually, we don't have the full cost of the purchase of the land because there may have been some additional closing fees, but we're going to ignore that. We've got the purchase of the land. We've got the installation of the gravel driveway. We've got the installation of the buried electric and the water. So the next step would be excavation for the foundation. Actually, no. The next step would be the septic permitting process, the septic tank, and field line installation. Okay, so this next estimate, and again, I'm using an AI system that is not specialized in construction estimates, okay? So anytime I've asked for estimates on things, through a system like this one and then called real contractors to get estimates from them, typically the price is either similar or much higher. So do not trust these numbers. I can't emphasize that enough, but for the sake of argument and for the sake of quick analysis, attempted analysis, we're going to kind of rely probably more heavily on these estimates than we should. So it says a conventional septic system project, and that was supposed to include all steps and stages of that, materials, labor, etc. It's saying $12,750. I think that sounds low. I could be wrong. So I questioned it a little bit more, and it said low end 8 to 10,000, typical 10 to 15,000, higher end conventional 15 to 20,000, engineered or mound system 20 to 35,000 plus. So we're going to stick with this figure of 12,740 just for argument's sake. So we'll put septic system and install. So we are at roughly 159,000 so far. Okay, so the next question that I asked was to do an estimate of the following. If we were to put in the foundation, a 2-level home with roughly 1,000 square feet in the basement and the main level, take it to the point of no insulation, no sheetrock, no finish work, wiring it, plumbing it, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, open kitchen, living room on the main level, 1 big open space on the basement level, and left out a lot of detail, but just to get the estimate of getting it to that stage, including doors, windows, and roof, this estimation system says that you're looking at $275,000 or more. Okay, this is, you know, if you were going to try to replicate what's already there, probably a very lowball estimate. Okay, so we're going to say 275,000 for home with porch and deck of similar nature up to point of no insulation and no sheetrock. Okay, so now our subtotal is, so now we're at about $434,000 so far. So now we still need to add in, if we're going to replicate what's currently there, we are going to have insulation and sheetrock, I would say, put into 80% of the main level to be conservative. So it's saying that that step would be around 12 to 18,000. So let's go with the lower, more conservative number just for argument's sake. So 434 plus 12. So now we're at a budget of $446,000 for replication. We haven't done the carport, we haven't done the flagpole, we haven't done the lighting out back, we haven't done the exterior lighting. We haven't talked about clearing the massive backyard space. Let's figure out the cost to clear that massive backyard space. So we're going to do some measuring, and again, this is a picture taken at an angle from a satellite, so it looks like there is less space than there actually is here. So we're going to measure from the back of the house to this back point of the backyard as our first measurement. About 380 feet. And we're going to do a width, which is actually more like this, maybe even more. Again, this angle is really hiding part of the cleared area. So we'll say 111, what was the other dimension again? By 340. We'll say 111 by 340. So that's approximately 0.86 acres of land cleared. So let's get an estimate on that. So this is giving an estimate of $15,000 to open up that big backyard space. Okay. So let's add that 15,000 to that 446 figure. And we're at about $461,000 so far. So having something brand new, replicating what we already have here, is probably going to be much more than this number in reality, but at least I would say this number in reality. And of course, there's many factors at play here, and this was a very rough estimate done very quickly using an AI model that is not trained to be, highly accurate in this kind of thing, but this is the number it came up with. So what would you rather pay, $299 or $461? What would you rather have, property now or property a year or two from now, right? So this property is absolutely an incredible value, especially considering, what if you split the difference? What if you said 461 minus 299? That gives you $162,000 of wiggle room. What if you took on a mortgage for 461? You took 162,000 and rolled that into the finished work for the house, customization of the home, maybe tossing the pool in the backyard or doing some really nice, gorgeous landscaping, maybe widening that driveway a little bit, whatever the soul desires, you know what I'm saying? And you have something to enjoy immediately as opposed to a year or two from now. So this property is an incredible value. Additionally, with the development potential, with the way that it is zoned, this is such an opportunity for the future. Even if you want to buy this property and you don't plan on building a bunch of extra houses there, the fact that this asset has the legal ability to attempt such things will help it to hold and stabilize marketable perceived value forevermore. That is an incredible opportunity in and of itself. If you were trying to decide between two similar properties and one had a zoning allowance that allowed for future construction and additional home sites and the other one did not, I would recommend, as an agent and a professional, as far as taking into consideration what's in your best interest for wealth building in a multi-generational way, absolutely go for the property that has the highest and best usage potential and variability. Okay, so I had to take a quick call, and we are now at 1:04 p.m. Eastern Time, July 21st, 2026. It is Tuesday. And I could go on and add more things to this, but I think we're at a point where budget-wise in this replication scenario, we're approaching $500,000, and price tag for what we already have to offer you, we're at $299. So that's a huge savings for something that you can immediately utilize as opposed to something you'd have to wait a year, maybe two, to access, right? So I'm going to wrap this video up and get back to my to-do list for the day. My name's Amber Nestor. My phone number is 865-617-4783. Again, that's 865-617-4783. And I would love to talk to you about your buying, listing, selling, investing, and consulting goals. Have a great day. See you next time.